I'm sorry, I lost the link. Actually, I got mis. I think I thought maybe it is in yours, but I was searching. So last minute, I had to bother you all.
No, no, sir. Such a pleasure to have you with us. All our panelists have already joined. So should we start?
Yeah, yeah, ma'am. Sure, sure.
Nidhi, can we
Yes,
start?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So good morning, all of you. This is Dr. Nidhi Sharma, and on behalf of PMR fraternity, I would like to extend a very warm and heartfelt welcome to one and all to the PIMR International E-Conference on Surviving in Tough Times, Strategies for Success and Sustainability. And today we feel truly honored and privileged to have galaxy of eminent speakers with us. So I would request our Honorable Director, Dr. Yogeshwari Phatak, to please deliver the welcome address. Ma'am.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Indore, it is my privilege to welcome our esteemed speakers on the occasion, Mr. Anish Agrawal, Managing Director, Data and Analytics, Royal Bank of Scotland, India. Ms. Prema Mishra, Founder and Managing Director, U Catapult, Mumbai. Mr. Sushantu Mitra, Founder and CEO, Lead Angels Network, Mumbai. Mr. Parul Barnett, CEO, Strategic Management Forum, London, UK. Mr. Piyush Gupta, Writer and Assistant Director and Partner at Drinkwater Advertising and Design, Mumbai. Our UGC nominee, Honorable Dr. Ajay Singh, Vice Chancellor of Sri Sri University. Our Chairman, Padma Shri Dr. N. Jain sir, who is unable to join us but has conveyed his blessings for the e-conference. Our Dynamic Vice Chairman, Prestige Education Society, Dr. Davis Jain sir. Mr. Dipin Jain sir, Treasurer, Prestige Education Society. Other honorable members of our society, Dr. Anil Bajpayee, CEO of Prestige University, which is our latest baby, and it's a feather in our cap. Dr. Sanjeev Patni, CEO of Atal Incubation Center, Prestige Inspire Foundation. Directors of our sister institutions, Dr. S.S. Bhakar from Gwalior, Dr. Manoj Deshpande sir, who heads our engineering institution from Indore, Dr. Amitabh Joshi, who heads our institution from Devas, Dr. Prakash Chaudhary, who is the principal of our Prestige Public School, honorable members of the Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Board of Studies, Academic Council, and REC members, delegates who have joined us from 19 states of India, and foreign delegates from Russia, UK, USA, and Saudi Arabia. And all the participants who are also viewing us online on YouTube. I welcome you all to the PIMR International E-Conference, Surviving in Tough Times, Strategies for Success and Sustainability. This e-conference was conceptualized due to the need to understand and research the global problem that we are facing and contemplate and propose solutions and suggestions to combat the problem and to succeed in converting this problem into a stepping stone for future growth, success, and global prosperity. The world has learned in a short span of time a lot about an unknown threat, how to combat it, contain it, and change business models and lifestyles to deal with it. Four factors have emerged as being very important in handling this crisis. These four factors, according to me, were firstly empathy, which led to loyalty and trust, decisiveness, which led to innovative business models, communication, which led to openness and transparency, and values, which actually guided all these three factors and also led to brand building. How nations, businesses, and societies deal with these four factors will decide future sustainability and success. At Prestige, our chairman, Padma Shri, Dr. N. Jain sir, has always focused on an empathetic, responsive, communicative, decisive, and a bottoms-up approach. This has ensured that Prestige Institute of Management and Research has moved from one milestone to another in the last 26 years, whether it be our NAC-A accreditation twice by UGC, our autonomous status, which we have been enjoying since 2008, whether it is our prominent alumni who are all over the world, the top placements that we enjoy and the trust of various top corporates, or it be our latest new baby, that is the Atal Incubation Center, Prestige Inspire Foundation, to promote entrepreneurship. So very good morning and welcome to all our panelists and all our delegates once again. And without much ado, I would like to request Nidhi Sharma to carry on with the proceedings.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now like to introduce Dr. Devish Jain. Dr. Devish Jain, Vice Chairman, Prestige Education Foundation and Prestige Group of Industries, a leader with a difference, with a vision and to make a difference. Dr. Devish Jain learned his business basics at the hand of an illustrious father, Padma Shri Dr. N. Jain, at a very early age. Earned several academic qualifications along the way, MPhil, PhD, DSc, and also attended a program at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Optimism, defined skills, intelligence, foresightedness, and earthy simplistic dedication towards exceeding targets is a hallmark of Dr. Devish Jain. Dr. Jain is a person who knows how to mold imagination into reality along with the consent of everyone. Dr. Devish Jain owes a lot of achievements to following footprints of his father, Dr. N. Jain, who is known as living legend in Indian oilseed sector. Dr. Devish Jain has served as chairman at SOPA, that is Soybean Processors Association of India, for 2 consecutive years and is also the current chairman. Further, he has received the title of Man with a Vision and Mission. Prestige Group is leading the agri-business enterprises with recognized brand image in soybean processing, edible oil refining, hydrogenation, animal feed industry, and wheat flour milling. Besides that, the group has also successfully established its brand image in the field of professional management education. He is also a founder, chief patron of Worldwide GITO, that is Jain International Trade Organization, and its zonal president for the states of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. He also held the position of chairman of GEL, that is GITO Education Loan Program, and organized education loan of around 50 crore to the needy and deserving students. So with this, I request Dr. Devish Jain to please address us with his words of wisdom. Please, sir.
Namaskar, and a very good morning to the respected members of the jury, learned speakers from across the country and abroad, and last but not the least, the adorable audience of this virtual international e-conference. Till few months back, none of us would have thought that we would be seeing and meeting each other through e-technology enabled virtual digital platform. I don't know whether COVID-19 should be given credit for this or not. Anyway, the crisis for all of us has come as an opportunity to explore the immensely potential of digital platform communication, which has not only bridged the distance among us, even while physically being away thousands of kilometers from each other, but also have saved our precious time, which otherwise we all have to spend by commuting from one place to another. As traveling has become a dangerous proposition these days, we must and should welcome this transition of our time. On behalf of the Prestige Institute of Management and Research, PIMR, Indore, India, I welcome you all to this inaugural session of this important conference surviving in tough times, strategy for success and sustainability being organized at a time when we all are reeling under the impact of COVID-19. I also take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the illustrious director and the senior faculties of PIMR for putting in their best efforts to host and organize this e-conference of an international level, which was really a tough job given the difficult times we are all passing through. It is personally a subject extremely close to my heart. Our founder chairman, Padma Shri awardee Dr. N.N. Jain, my revered father, who came to India at a young age of 16 years at the time of partition of India in 1947, that was the first tough time he saw. He not only survived, but also succeeded by his focused efforts. He worked his way up to heading the foreign collaborated company, which he joined as an apprentice. Dr. N.N. Jain next created Prestige to symbolize his prestige at a stage when I was a young boy, not so versed with the nuances of industry. We started business local to global, some failures, many successes, till Prestige became synonymous with soybean. We had personal tragedies, losing very close loved ones. We lost business and were on a verge of collapse. I was taught by my father never to give up and keep working with positive intent. I shall quote my young nephew here, Engineer Ketan Jain, says, my grandfather, who started from a salary of rupees 63 per month, went to being awarded Padma Shri by Government of India for trade and industry, and has ingrained this in us. You fail when you stop trying, not when you fall. Surviving in difficult times is truly entrepreneurship. Let us take an example. 2 years ago, Mukesh Ambani entered the telecom sector when every telecom company was engaged in increasing subscriber base. Mukesh Ambani focused on technology advancement. Today, Reliance Jio has brought a product that will compete with OTT platform of Amazon, Netflix, along with providing a JioMart, DTH, Wi-Fi, mobile and landline services. Yes, half a dozen services, half a dozen competitors will fight one product of Jio, Reliance Jio. Friends, this vision has made Mukesh Ambani the richest man, not in our country, but throughout Asia. I shall not expound to the damage this pandemic COVID-19 has inflicted on the entire planet. As I speak today, the world has lost nearly 400,000 lives while inflicting over 7 million people worldwide. Economy is trapped in the vicious circle and demand and supply mismatch. The industrial and agriculture workforce is migrating in huge numbers from their place of work to the place of origin. Its impact on the various sectors of economy are yet to be seen. In the lack of any medicine or vaccine, lockdown of society and countries which social distancing was the only solution, which had led to an economic setback. I'm sure there will be a reverse migration of laborers who have lived urban life and have been accustomed to higher wages than rural areas. They will return, but with conditions for their industry, which industries will also have to change their modalities. We have to make sure that they get social security so that if there is an event like lockdown again, then they do not have to do the annoying migration like this time. In the era of unemployment, their essential needs like bread, clothes, housing, education, and health should be fulfilled. I'm happy to say that Prestige Group took care of these things and did not stop the salary of their staff for the lockdown period. I believe that this will strengthen their organizational commitment. Let me give you a peek into the future from my crystal ball. I see a more cultured society, a more disciplined India, and a prosperous nation thanks to the opportunity affected by this crisis. We are the only society with 700 million young people, a demographic dividend that will go into the machinery called manufacturing industry to fill the void that inadvertently will be created by China. This crisis has opened avenues of new opportunities. The dependency on technology has increased many folds, and virtual organizations are replacing traditional structures, and give principles of management are replacing the old ways of doing business. My advice to the young students of prestige educational institutes is to change their attitude. I have been to China many times. I have seen Chinese youth closely. They are less intelligent than you, so they act like robots without arguing. The educated women of our country stay at home after getting married and becoming mothers. In China, women work more than men. It is the personal and social attitude that we have to change. We have to strategize around three major areas: strategy on people deployment, strategy on fund management, and strategy on technology management. The market is already there. If we can stitch these pieces together, we have a success story. Uh, I'm happy to say that the Corona relief package of rupees 20 lakh crore, that is $300 billion equivalent, that Prime Minister Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji has announced, has relieved the industries from the stress of fund management. They have also been successful in controlling corona contamination in the country so far. America has a population of 330 million, and more than 100,000 people have died from coronavirus there. Our country's population is more than 4 times that of USA, but only 6,500 in India could not be saved. For this, I salute the corona warriors of our country. At the end, the new learnings that may change our lives forever and a positive outcome of COVID are digital skilling initiated by our Honorable Prime Minister 5 years ago has spread widely to all areas. The lockdown due to pandemic has given an opportunity to all of us to continually upgrade ourselves through online education. I'm sure there are many more positives that can count on. At the end, I would like to tell my young friends on this broadcast that please have hope, have courage, dare to dream, and the tough times will be behind us sooner than later. Jai Hind and a good luck for the rest of the conference. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing deep insights and guiding all of us how to survive this tough time. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would now request Dr. Anil Bajpai, CEO, Prestige University, to address us. Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Nidhi. Am I audible to all?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. So, first of all, I will not repeat myself by welcoming everybody. Dr. Davis ji has very, very succinctly and in a very elaborate manner expounded upon what the pandemic is, what are the activities that will take us to the next generation, and what we will leave behind for posterity. I wish to be a little bit of a devil's advocate at the beginning. I did a little looking up on what a pandemic is all about. And I found that recorded history has over 22 pandemics, beginning with the Antonine pandemic in 165 AD. The bad news is that all pandemics so far have lasted for more than a couple of years. So, it is fair to assume that coronavirus or COVID-19 is not going to go away in a hurry. And therefore, I congratulate Dr. Phatak and the team for picking up such a brilliant subject of surviving in the pandemic, in the tough times, not after. Like most debates going on in the country are post-COVID-19, post-coronavirus. I can't even imagine post-coronavirus right now. We have to live with it or die with it, as the case may be. The one thing that I did after searching for the tough time and the pandemic was take a sneak peek at our speakers. Went into the LinkedIn profiles, and I found we have a galaxy of stars today who will address us, who will participate in this wonderful exposition. And we have from IT experts who are running banking operations to people in the brand and image building activity. We have social scientists like Ms. Mishra, and we have the you know people who have who go to, and Paul, of course, sitting in the UK, will give us a strategic activity based what should I say, survival strategy. He is the strategy man. He is somebody who has been strategizing for companies, for corporations, and probably for the first time in his life, he will be now strategizing for countries, maybe for the planet as a whole. And these are little words that I don't want to go any deeper than what our vice chairman, Dr. Davis Jan, has already explained in his brief but brilliant exposition. And of course, Yogeshwari madam has very, very clearly laid down the rules and the lines on which we are heading towards things and how we're going to be spending the rest of the day, listening to more than almost 200 papers which have been presented. There will be several lines of activity going on simultaneously. So, with the words that let the day be fruitful, and at the end of the day, if we can develop a white paper, which is going to be a combined activity from everybody's inputs into something that can be shared with the world, it may serve as a tool for surviving and of course, there is one key word which I missed out, and that was sustainability. We can survive. Can we sustain? Can we sustain over the next many, many years? History has shown that every time there is a crisis or tough time, humanity has always come out victorious. We have developed beyond the pain and fury caused by the crisis or the tough time and emerged victors, creating new horizons and taking ourselves ahead and ahead and ahead. So I will not now stand between the brilliant speeches that we're going to listen to for the next hour or so, and say thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful words of wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to introduce our panelist, Mr. Anish Agrawal, who is Managing Director, Data and Analytics, Royal Bank of Scotland, India. So Mr. Anish Agrawal is recognized as top 100 influential leaders in Asian analytics industry and top 40 under 40 data scientists in India. Anish is a professional with over 19 years of experience and exceptional expertise of delivering value through innovative use of data across a spectrum of industry verticals. As an informed opinion leader and the go-to person in the field of data analytics, data visualization, strategy design, thought leadership, financial modeling, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, and robotics process automation, Anish is a trusted expert who has moved and inspired people and organizations with his innovative ideas, scaling them into sustainable change, not just in one company, but in an industry, niche, or across an entire ecosystem globally. He's on a panel of a number of industry conferences and has authored several papers on various subjects related to artificial intelligence and advanced data and analytics. He's also a member of the advisory board of an AI startup and colleges and universities intending to set up a structured course on data science and artificial intelligence. Besides, Anish is on panel of a number of AI-themed industry bodies. He's an alumnus of Harvard Business School and MIT Sloan Business School, and is also visiting guest faculty in a number of Tier 1 colleges and universities in India. So with this, may I request Mr. Anish to please address all of us? Mr.
Thanks,
Anish? Yeah.
many thanks for that warm welcome. Clearly, I think my introduction needs to be tweaked. It makes me feel I am growing old, but that's not really the case. I'm still young by heart. But thank you so much for that warm welcome and those beautiful words. Yeah, it's been years and years of experience, which has actually took a lot of time in trying to understand what exactly is the AI ecosystem and the data and analytics parlance as well. So today I was asked to speak about what are the strategies which we should be taking to sustain this pandemic and sustain a change as well. And the way I would look at it is we all realize how COVID-19 pandemic has affected us professionally and personally as well. Whilst we hope that things get back to normal soon, we absolutely can't deny the impact it's created on our business and our industry and ourselves as well. First and foremost, this is a global health and economic crisis. We all know that. But for many millions of us, we are battling a loss of normalcy in our life. How well prepared do we think we are to deal with a situation like this? I think we are not. So I recently read a message on LinkedIn which said that COVID-19 didn't break the system. It actually just exposed loopholes in a system which we always expected was fairly robust and resilient. And it's like both, like everything else. The challenging part is, as human beings, we don't like uncertainty and unpredictability. And there's even some evidence that if you are highly neurotic, you actually prefer experiencing pain over being in the dark about what you're going to experience. That's a part of the crisis that's really a challenge. And on the flip side, we are highly adaptable as well. Uh, Charles Darwin wrote, when he was building his theory of evolution, that natural selection favors a sense of flexibility. And it's not always the strongest species that survives. It's sometimes the most adaptable species that survive. So for today, I'll talk about two aspects. The first is what we individually can do to be more resilient to this change. And second, what should the businesses be doing to sustain the pandemic and emerge as a successful institution? So to start with, I think one of the ways we can cope with uncertainty is when you can't imagine the future. You can actually rewind and think more about the past. You can recognize hardships and maybe the hardships that you have faced before in the previous times. And you can learn something from the lessons from your own resilience and then try to figure out what did I do effectively before that might work for me today. I still hear a lot of people complaining about something called FOMO, which is fear of missing out, even though there's nothing really going on. So the question is, has the COVID killed the fear of missing out, or FOMO, or aggravated it? I prefer to think about this less in terms of FOMO, but more in terms of what's affect. There's something which is often known as, JOMO, which is JOMO, which is joy of missing out. I actually made a list of things made a list of all the things that I am thrilled that I don't have to do. And that includes maybe, washing utensils at home as well, or, having to commute. And this is a practice that's pretty useful for people. We have a lot of evidence that marking moments of joy can actually create those moments of joy because we are more likely to notice them. We are more likely to savor and share them. Being able to capture a few things that are really joyful about getting to stay home seems like a productive step in the right direction. The next thing that I'm asked is, we are all separated from our teams. How can we maintain a sense of belonging while isolated at home? Well, I would actually say I don't know if that's easy. In one company, I know these guys did a virtual tour of home offices that gave them a chance to talk about some of the mementos that people keep nearby. They were showing off pictures that their kids drew for them. And it was a great moment of personal connection in a way that never would have happened if everyone was in the office. I'm not suggesting that that's a perfect fit for everyone, but it seemed like a small step that can make a meaningful difference in feeling like I learned something new about my colleagues. I learned something new about my friends. And I see them more as human beings as opposed to just achievement robots, which is a fantastic feeling. And I'm sure you'll all agree that every team, every group has a set of introverts and extroverts. And many feel that this crisis has leveled the playing field between them. And I wouldn't go that far. I think the reality of the current situation is we are still catering to extroversion. We are now sitting on video calls all day, as opposed to saying, you know what, maybe we should have fewer meetings. We have known for a while that introverts' voices tend to get overlooked in a group setting. And this would be a good time to experiment with moving to new ways of how can we actually break the silos of introverts by working more independently, which we know is the best approach if you want to generate lots of good ideas in groups. One of the simple practices that I follow is I make sure that introverts don't get drowned out, is to shift from brainstorming to brain writing. So what essentially is brain writing? Brain writing is a process where you ask all the people in a team to come up with ideas, then submit them, and then we review them collectively. This leverages individual strengths around coming up with original ideas and allows the group to do what it does best, which is to begin to evaluate and refine. And that's probably one of the most effective ways to make sure that introverts are heard. The next thing is throughout the crisis, managing expectations also has become even harder. All of a sudden, we are workers, we are teachers, we are providers, and we are cleaners. Um, so should we try to keep up? What exactly should we be prioritizing? Is this good for our sanity? Well, I think this is a time when leaders needs to be more flexible and compassionate. This is not an experiment that any of us opted for. It was forced upon us. But as long as we are stuck with it, as a leader, it's an opportunity to say, if I impose less control over people's schedule and plans, that's going to teach me whether I can trust them or not. As simple as that. We've known from a couple of decades of research on management and monitoring that when people are monitored too closely, that signals distrust. And they respond by saying, I don't really feel obligated to act in a way that you may consider trustworthy. Whereas when you allow people to make some choices, they start to feel a greater sense of loyalty and they reciprocate the trust that they have shown. Given that we don't have a lot of opinions anyway to control people, this is the ideal time to do a little bit of less of it. And we also have always heard about, I would need an ideal work-life balance. So how does that work-life balance work in this crisis? Well, my personal view, work-life balance has been a myth for a long time. If you care about your family, if you care about your job, and you also want to prioritize health and hobbies, the ideas that you might have even a day where all those things are in perfect harmony, to me is hysterically funny. You cannot have an ideal day where you actually bucket 2 hours to work, 2 hours for personal family, 2 hours for your personal, something called me time that's really prevalent right now, and some time for your kids or family or hobbies as well. It's just not possible. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but it actually gets very impractical. What I always strive for is balance in a week where I might have to work, 5 days where I'm pretty focused on my work and I don't get as much time as, with my family as I want to. But then I'll have 2 more days, which are the weekends, where I will be in a family mode. Work takes a back seat. And that's probably the most realistic way to manage the crisis. To say instead of work-life balance, we ought to think about work-life rhythm, and I think that's more achievable. And there's another dimension of which people talk about, which is a balance between givers, takers, and matchers. Does this period of self-isolation when working remotely or magnify or reduce these qualities, the qualities of being a giver, taker, or a matcher? So giving, taking, and matching are just different styles of interaction that we bring to the workplace. Givers are people who by default want to know, what can I do for you? Takers are the opposites. They are interested in figuring out what can you do for me? And then matchers hover in the middle of that spectrum of givers and takers and say, I don't want to be too selfish or too generous. So I will be doing something for you if you do something for me. You know, the takers may feel they have a little bit more license to shrink, maybe to steal credit for others' ideas. And I think, though, we've seen an incredible outpouring of generosity in this crisis. The givers really see this as a situation where they need to step up. They feel a sense of responsibility to try and help others. My guess is that matching gets weeded out a little bit. I don't think that people operate like matches because it's their core value. I think people match because they're afraid of the risks of overcorrecting or either side. In these situations, people probably gravitate more towards fundamentally, am I more of a selfish or generous person? And one of the big frustrations for givers in a situation like this is they don't always know where they can help. As an example, I recently joined a professional mentoring platform, which makes it easy for people to seek guidance and give help in 5 minutes or a day or less. You interact with people, counsel them, mentor them, whatever career advice they need. And I would love to see more of those kinds of efforts to make sure that we can make people needs and requests more visible so that people who have the motivation and the ability to contribute are able to direct their energy in the way it's needed. So that's on the personal side. Let's talk about some few other things. So is there anything positive that may come out of this crisis? Well, we are going to see a lot of employers embrace more flexibility around working from home and having virtual teams. They're going to find out that it wasn't as impossible as it was originally thought. And there are some productivity gains that may come from people because of people not having to commute every day and getting to work where you want. On an individual level, unfortunately, there are some people who are going to face post-traumatic stress, and let's accept it. The encouraging news psychologically is over half of people report a different response to trauma, which is post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is a sense that I wish this didn't happen, but given that it has happened, I feel like I'm better in some way. It's more of having a sense of acceptance, acceptability. It might be heightened. It might be a heightened sense of personal strength. It could be a deeper sense of gratitude. It could be finding new meaning, or investing more in relationships as well. It could be either ways. So from a corporate standpoint, from an institution standpoint, I'm sure we will all agree, and as we heard earlier in today's webinar as well, the government has taken excellent measures to control this pandemic. Businesses have also entailed various restrictions on its day-to-day operations, such as introducing work from home, we spoke about it, and other many policies to contain the spread and maintain social distancing. But having said that, it has affected businesses, especially in the IT industry, and even right from the manufacturing to the marketing, every industry. There's going to be a short-term negative impact. We do not anticipate any long-term impacts on the industry, but the pandemic has definitely led to stalling of some activity, such as on the operating income, profitability, and sourcing of products from markets like China. Also, while the factories in Asia are reopening, companies may experience challenges in getting production fully running. And of course, within India as well, there are speculation that there will be a significant shortage of manpower because of the mass migration that has happened from one state to other state. So how can we mitigate the COVID-19 impact? What are the strategies that institutions should be placing? I think preparations post-COVID will be the key for all businesses, and companies are already taking initiatives to reduce the negative impacts of majority of employees. The first one is to evaluate the supply chain. This pandemic has forced many companies to relook and transform their supply chain model, especially for companies that highly depend on China to fulfill their need for raw materials. So it becomes all the more important for each institution in the manufacturing or any other company which has this dependency to adopt to new supply chain technologies, which can dramatically transform the business and enable end-to-end visibility, agility, and optimization. And that's where leveraging advanced technologies like IoT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, 5G, companies can actually meet the future challenges in a very, very effective way. The second is they should address key risks and ensure business continuity. Often companies are at their most vulnerable when handling a crisis that dominates a lot of attention. The many other risks that the business is facing aren't diminished by this epidemic. Cybersecurity, for example, should always be kept top of the mind. With millions of employees having to work from home, companies are having to look at how to keep many business critical functions running as much as possibility with zero breakage, while having the same time maintaining the right levels of security. There shouldn't be any instance where there's a data loss. So it's imperative to secure the comms and data of any company device, which is hosted on any company device, which is maybe traveling via on the internet from one cloud server to another. And they must look at things which are beyond antivirus and firewalls. Scenario planning and analysis. As we know that the COVID-19 will impact every part of our industry for months. In such a situation, successful planning is critical area to prepare ourselves, and we should be thinking the best practice and the best and the worst case scenarios in advance and think how can we cope. I think the way we work, of course, work from home has significantly changed. Leaders may want to become more hands-on in learning about their employees' values, interests, trends, and motivations as well. And the last bit is managing the cost side of the story. It's advisable for all organizations to manage cost, manage cash reserve ratio in order to navigate through the crisis. They should be implementing cost reduction strategies that will allow the businesses to sustain efficiency while corresponding to the demand of the product audience and the customers. Reducing operating costs in order to conserve cash is critical to the survival of every business. And to conclude, I would say there are going to be some of the incredible natural experiments that are already begin to run. They're going to be analyzed, and we're going to be able to see what's the effect of having to work from home on productivity at a scale that's never been tested before. We're also going to learn something about what happens to people's creativity and connection when they can't interact face-to-face and with their colleagues. There's a whole group of organizational psychologists as well as sociologists and management professors who are doing and who are actually going to spend the next 5-10 years studying the effects of this pandemic in different places. In a way, another form of post-traumatic growth is we gain new insights about how to work together effectively from a distance that we wouldn't have had access to otherwise. And I wish we don't have access to it. I would rather not go through this crisis again, but given that we're stuck with it, we might as well try to learn from it. That's from me. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Anish. We are surely going to explore opportunities in this pandemic. We are going to be more flexible, adaptable, responsible, and going to find joy in all small and big things that we encounter. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
I would now like to talk about Ms. Prerna Mishra. So Ms. Prerna Mishra, founder, UCatapult. She has over 25 years plus experience as an educationist, and she's based in Mumbai. As an administrative leader, she fosters an environment that encourages positive learning, effective teamwork, and collaborative culture. She was one among the 9 people shortlisted by CBSE and chosen by Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, to be a part of an expert group to define PE curriculum in India. In her last role, she was the Chief Operating Officer of an international school in Mumbai. She has also worked extensively with Delhi Public School franchisee in leadership roles, and shares deep understanding of collaborative strategic thinking required for effective school functioning. We welcome you, ma'am, and we would like to hear from you. So please address us. Ms. Prerna.
Thank you, Nidhi. Dr. Anil Bajpai, Dr. Devesh Jainji, Namaskar, and all the eminent guests. Mr. Anish, your corporate angle, I'm educationist, so how it's different. It's very different. But I tried my best to understand your strategies. But I will share the strategies which I applied in my career. I just want to share one thing. The topic I just fell for this topic because I was sharing with Dr. Anil that surviving in tough times. When I got this topic, and when Professor Ajit has approached me, I said, this is something I can relate to, and I was thinking that what I'm going to present. And I divided this entire 15 minutes in 3 different categories just to ensure that at least I can communicate what I have been doing so far and how this crisis came as a blessing in my life, and which is something Dr. Anil has rightly said, that what will happen after post-COVID, why we're talking about it. Let's take this as an opportunity. And people might, like me, I would consider myself as an opportunist. And there is reason behind it, just to begin with. I started my career as a sports teacher. And when I was a player, I played 4 nationals. And I always used to believe, that I'm a star. I got into the college, and because I got a scholarship, I never knew that I'll become a sports teacher. When I joined the school, I was not treated as maths teacher and English teacher. For good 10 years, I hated my profession. I realized that, oh my goodness, this is not something I was expecting. My name was written in my school. Nobody told me that sports teachers are not required in the school system. And this was all mindset. And I was struggling with that mindset. And today, why this is a blessing? Because overnight, all the teachers, they all became tech savvy. Again, the mindset. Now, for 10 years, I completed my master's in 3 subjects just to prove the world that I also have a grace head. And and I said, okay, fine, let me be in the system to change the system. And it was very difficult. I worked 18 years with Delhi Public School. And once I said to my boss that, I want to become a principal, she said, oh, how can a physical education teacher can become a principal? I said, I did my master's in 3 subjects. She said, no. Only the physics teacher will get this opportunity, or English teacher. Again, the mindset. And in 2006, I strategized my professional career. And I'm proudly sharing this because I think there are so many physical education teachers must have become a principal, but my strategy was very different because there was no godfather. And I was struggling with all high-end schools. I completed my master's in human rights. And I requested my principal, will you allow me to run a school for underprivileged after the school hours? She said, how will you manage? Your working hours going to be long. I said, yes, I can manage. And she said, you have to raise funds. I said, I'll do that. I was strategizing. I was actually planning that I should get some administrative experience. For 2 years, I used to visit to the slum area, tell those parents why you should send your child to this school. And I was planning those curriculum for the small kids because I wanted administrative experience. Silently, I was actually experiencing how the administration works in the education sector. 2 years, I raised 55 lakhs rupees. And somewhere my beliefs, whatever I used to plan, somewhere wo kahin na kahin sach ho jata tha. And I used to think that, oh, I'm not thinking wrong. There's something right which is happening. But one incident in that school has changed my perspective towards education. And that was, again, something I only experienced. No educator has ever taught me that. So one PTM, which I organized in that school, and one rickshaw puller, he came and he touched my feet. I said, what happened? Aapke bacche ko kitab mila hai? He said, yes. I said, books mila hai? To unhone kaha, haan. Maine kaha, पैर क्यों छुआ? He said, madam ji, मेम साहब, अब तो मेरा बच्चा भी engineer बनेगा. My goodness, I was not planning for his family. I was strategizing for myself. It has changed me as a person. And I realized, no, if I am in the education sector, whatever I am going to do, it is going to impact the family. And that learning from that day, the strategies which I was applying for myself, I started touching lives to people, and that is how I became very sensitive. I left GD Goenka. I worked in at DPS. I worked in GD Goenka school. I worked in a school in Noida, wherein the fee structure of that school 40,000 per month of a child. Rich schools. And I used to think that, in Delhi, because more than a decade I worked in Delhi, I used to think that, this is the life, this is the kind of school we have in India. Because I never knew what is the reality, what is the dunya mein sach kya hai. When I got a job in one international school I was offered, and they said, ma'am, I got to know that you are a very different physical education teacher. What you will do different in the school? I said, you have a maths report card, I'll make a sports report card for your child. He said, wo kaise banta hai? I said, sports is all science. It's his anatomy. It's just that school leaders, they don't have that understanding. That's why we were never valued. I said, it's all about physiology. So sports quotient, we don't develop at formative years. They liked it and they said, you know what, we want you. But I wanted an administrative position, and after 1 year, I was lucky to get a job in GD Goenka, Delhi. And there I was heading in middle school. I got an opportunity. When I started working there, all the Delhi University toppers, academic teachers, they felt, oh my goodness, the sports teachers are going to lead us. She's the one who is going to lead us. And for me, it was a 6-month struggle. But I observed something. I realized that, these teachers, the maths teacher, the science teacher, when they make the curriculum, they don't study before they make the curriculum, because there's that kind of a structure we are not in. And from there, 5.5 years, I worked there. After that, I got an opportunity to start a school in DPS Firozabad. When I visited Firozabad, that colonial style building has given me this feeling that, nothing has changed after independence. What I'm going to change in this city? यहाँ पे तो EVS की किताब भी लोग पढ़ते हैं, social science भी पढ़ते हैं और science भी पढ़ते हैं. And then my journey as a leader has changed. My perspective has changed. I said, no, this is something which is beyond. This is something which I have not signed up for. I have to do something which others are not doing. And mind it, a physical education teacher, when I got the principal's position, I failed in 45 interviews only because I was a physical education teacher. I was interviewed by one of the very eminent school in Gurgaon, and they claim to fame was they claim to fame was they are a different school. I said, why don't you have the audacity to hire somebody who's different? So they had no answer. The point which I'm saying is, when the last opportunity which I got as a chief operating officer in one of the international schools in Mumbai, when I relocated in 2017, I thought, wow, I got the position, I'm getting a handsome salary, now I don't need this. But believe me, after 8 months, I realized 25 years of experience, I feel that I have worked 40 years. I can't give my life to somebody who doesn't value it. And one day I decided, I don't want to work here. I can be associated with this school, but I want to reach out to many people. How will I reach out? I was not aware. I started with a strategic leadership workshop for school principals because I felt that school principals, they are not getting enough training before they start leading any school. If they're a school senior physics teacher or a bio teacher, they get this opportunity only because their school result was good, or for whatever reason, because they served that school for 15 years. But how about the school law? Are you aware of it? Are you aware of, are you impacting the community? You are touching 2,000 kids every day. 2,000 kids are coming to your school. Are you impacting? Are you influencing 2,000 families? I have not seen that happening. I said, let me start a workshop for these principals. I did it, and then COVID happened. When COVID started, for 2 days, I was thinking, now, I don't know what I'll do. There's nothing which I can do. I will wait for the COVID, this phase to get over, and then I'll start something. 48 hours only I took, only 48 hours. And one of the teachers who has approached me from Delhi, and she said, ma'am, I'm tired of my school. I don't know what is happening. And this is a very normal scenario every school teacher they face, that I'm overworked, I don't know what to do. I said, you're such a brilliant teacher. You have studied from France. I said, you can be a teacher influencer. She said, I never taught anyone. I said, I'll create an opportunity. And believe me, how will I create that opportunity? I was technologically challenged. But Prema in me was always there I always used to dare to do something which is beyond my capacity. And I created a platform for her. And she started teaching the French teachers, because I always knew that the training, school teachers training in our community, it's very poor. We believe that once we take the degree, once we get the job, हमारा काम खत्म हो गया, पढ़ाने के लिए हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए. हमें आता है वो सब कुछ. When we did 2 workshops, after that I said, let me do Hindi workshop. And today I have through via technology, I have trained more than 1,500 teachers in many subjects without investing a single penny. And I started paying that resource people who was initially did 45 to 50 workshops free of cost. Then I said, now I will give you money because you lost job, because schools were not paying everybody. After that, something again happened, wherein performing arts people, they started approaching me that, ma'am, hamari naukri chali gayi hai, can you please help us? I said, naukri kyun chali gayi? He said, no, we are not getting salary. I said, okay, fine, I'll teach you on a digital platform how to connect with your audience. And can you please teach Kathak on a digital platform? Can you teach Madhubani art on a digital platform? Today, I don't have time, because I am creating those modules for teachers, and my knowledge, I got 8 promotions. I started my career in a school as a primary teacher. Then I became a middle school teacher, then senior school teacher. Then I became head middle school, then principal, then chief operating officer. In 8 roles, I understand the challenges every role faces. I know exactly what I have to offer to the middle school teacher when she is introducing geography, when she's teaching. I know what mistakes the political science teachers they do. I understand what the owners, school owners they face, that they don't get good quality teachers. I said, okay, fine. Let me become somebody who becomes, I was just started connecting the dots. I used to bring in the best people from Delhi, Bangalore, all over the place. And I used to started taking them to tier 2, tier 3 cities, because these people will never go there. And to a tier 2, tier 3 people will get that kind of a training, which they will never even imagine. Oh, this is also the way we can teach the concept. And that is, I started getting principals. They started telling that this is something which we have never experienced. Now there's so many people in the market, but I always used to believe my understanding that I worked 25 years in a school which was in a blessed category. There, the training was not that good. What about the 75% of the government and affordable schools where teachers are not even going to the class? Can you believe it? I got one problem, which is from Bihar school, where the students are 1,800 students in the school, only 5 teachers. And I was asked, can you solve the problem? And my answer, yes, I can. I have started strategizing for everyone. And that is what, because I was always designed like this. I think this crisis moment has given me enough courage and to reach out to people. I have realized over the time that problems exist, and it will exist in the future. It was existing in past as well. How to come up with a solution? And today I started solving everybody's problem. I strongly believe that today's leader will not be somebody who will say, you know what, your leadership skills, I may be, you may disagree. My leadership skill says money can be one component of your company, but people should know me how I am impacting the society. That will something people will talk about. That person, it doesn't matter whether how much money he has, but who is helping me in the COVID time. That is something which is important to that particular person. I think these are the small things which has given me enough strength, more positivity, and I believe in always empowering people. I don't support people, I don't help people. I said, if you believe you are skilled, join me. You're partner of my company. You're not working for me. You're partner of my company. And this, I think if for 1,500 teachers, they have been trained, I think more than 1.5 lakh students, they have been impacted with small little examples. In this entire 2.5 months, we adopted one school in Benares, wherein I wanted to reach, for last 2 years, I was planning to reach, I couldn't reach there. And I'm connected with that teachers, and for last 2 months, my resource people, they're training them how to teach rational number. And look at these small town teachers, those who were willing to learn but they don't know what to do. So that is something which I felt that this is my time. This is something I wanted. I don't need office. I don't go to anyone. If I want to be connected, this digital platform has given me enough. I'm not approaching people that can you please sanction my paper. If you believe in yourself, if you're skilled, please come to me. You will earn, and if you learn and you'll be acknowledged. Influence 1,000 teachers. I have told all my teacher influencers, if you believe in yourself, if you're skilled, influence 1,000 teachers, and that is how you're going to get that satisfaction. Probably you're not getting satisfaction in this school. Value everybody who is around you. A driver, if you don't value, I think this is something which I've learned over the time, that a driver also has an important role. If the driver will not come on a time, you will never reach office on time. But today's time, I think I will end with this, that strategies to not to survive, strategies to lead in this crisis movement is something which I believed in, and I'm excited that I'm able to do it and perform it better, much better during this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Predna, for inspiring us by sharing your inspiring journey. So I think you are a true example of women empowerment, and all of us are motivated and think that we can definitely perform much better or beyond what we think we can. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would now like to talk about our next panelist, Mr. Sushanto Mishra. So Mr. Sushanto Mishra, he's a founder and CEO, Lead Angels Network, which works with startups at every stage of growth and provides strategic consulting and execution of incorporation related activities. He is a TIE charter member of IIT Gandhinagar. He's also associated with Incubation Advisory Committee and Expert Committee, TBIU Valuation, FITT, IIT Delhi. He has deep interest in early stage ventures and development of entrepreneurship. He's a visiting faculty for internationally acclaimed conferences and academic institutions, including IITs and IIMs. We welcome you again, sir, and request us to please shower your experience on us. Share your views with us. Please, sir. Mr. Sushanto Mishra.
Mr. Sushanto is having a network problem.
Okay,
and therefore, it may be possible that he may not be able to come on the video. Can we have his audio, please, Prayatna? Is it possible for him to just share the audio with us?
Yes, I think so. No, I'm just checking. Shushanto sir, please, you can start your speech. I guess he is finding difficulty regarding the same.
Okay, can I move to the next panelist for the time being? Is it okay,
Yeah,
ma'am?
I guess you can do that, ma'am.
All right.
In the meantime, Prayatna, I would request you to kindly give him a call and just find out.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Right. So I would now like to talk about Mr. Paul Barnett. So Mr. Paul Barnett, CEO, Strategic Management Forum. Mr. Paul Barnett always believes in advancing the professional practice of strategic management and valuism in the pursuit of sustainable property. In 2012, he founded the Strategic Management Forum with a focus on advancing the professional practice of strategic management. He was also working on several books and developing the concept of valuism, a term that he coined to describe strategic management that focuses on sustainable value creation for all stakeholders and is based on a broad definition of value. So, sir, we welcome you again and we wish you to please share your experiences with us on valuism. Mr. Paul.
Noise is
coming here. Mr. Paul, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, sorry, I didn't realize I was next. Okay, am I presenting now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just share my screen so that I can present the slides then. Okay, so what I'd like to just follow is to suggest that what was said by the last speaker was interesting. I think what we should be talking about is, rather than survive and sustain, I think we should be talking about survive and thrive. So I would look at strategic management as being focused on how do we actually thrive. And sorry, just one second. So I'm going to suggest that actually times are always tough. So the title of the conference was How to Survive Through Tough Times. We've been talking about tough times for a long time now, since the last economic crisis at least. Everybody's been talking about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So tough times are nothing new. A crisis, I would suggest, just makes them even worse. But we need to be able to get used to managing in times of uncertainty, in tough times, all the time. The evidence is quite clear. The lifespan of a business is ever decreasing. That's plenty of evidence to suggest that that's the case. The life cycles of products are getting ever shorter. So business has to move much more quickly. And I found very interesting the PwC Global Crisis Survey, which suggests that most businesses are going from one crisis to another. These figures are quite shocking in many ways. 70% of leaders experience at least one crisis every 5 years, according to their survey results, which is a large-scale international survey. And the larger the company, the more frequent our crises. So large companies with 5,000 plus employees are experiencing a crisis at least once every year. That's a crisis that has a significant economic impact on the organization and its ability to achieve its goals. Usually these crises get blamed rather on external factors, and PESTEL is the framework that businesses usually use to analyze the external risks to the business, the context in which the business exists. So they break down into the political, economic, social, technical, legal, and environmental factors. But actually, most crises that companies actually suffer from are self-inflicted. And the PwC Crisis Survey makes that very clear. Most of the major causes of crisis, according to directors of businesses themselves, are internal issues, and they're actually really quite mundane characteristics, really, of poor management. That's not to say that external crises don't exist, but an external crisis merely really exacerbates the problem. There are then two types of crisis we've just described. One is external crisis, the other is the self-inflicted crisis. But in most cases, the cause, regardless of the cause, the symptoms and the problems are the same. Whatever you offered to the market is no longer valued, or is valued less than it used to be, or the business isn't in a position to be able to provide the same value competitively as it was before. So the major cause of that situation is that most businesses are actually focused on generating profits and on performance. They're not really focused on value creation. And the picture is of Martin Wolf, who is the chief economist of the Financial Times, and he makes the point. And it's interesting that most innovation in companies is incremental innovation, small improvements to be able to extract a bit more profit from the same customers, rather than building more genuine value, more additional value for customers. It's either incremental innovation to just extract more profits, or what's actually really required in most cases is radical innovation. So I think this is the way most companies actually look at the value equation. Most are focused on performance, which means ever reducing cost. If you look at management theory and practice for the last 50 to 100 years, it's all been about producing things more efficiently, cutting costs. And I call that denominator capitalism, because it's all based on reducing increasing profits by reducing the denominator, rather than focusing on generating new revenues from innovation and from real growth. Because actually, innovation's hard. It takes longer, it's more risky. Cutting costs is more predictable. It's what CFOs of businesses tend to prefer, because we tend to want control, and creating new opportunities is much harder to control than managing costs. So I think we can distinguish between denominator capitalism and numerator capitalism. The topic's been quite well researched, and this is an excellent book that was written by a former director of McKinsey. He suggests that most businesses that focus on performance are the businesses that perform least well. And the reason for that, as he explains, is that if your focus is on doing the things to hit targets on a regular basis, which usually comes down to cutting costs, managing the bottom line, then you're less likely to do the things which are going to lead to future revenue growth and new opportunities for the business. He doesn't suggest, and neither do I, that performance isn't important. It's just not enough. So businesses need to manage their costs and be efficient for sure, but at the same time, they, in his words, need to also be focusing on improving the health of the organization so that it can grow and thrive in the future. The problem isn't new, and this is Henry Ford. So the book American Icon was written by Bryce Hoffman, a journalist, and investigated the history of Ford Motor Company and how Alan Mulally, when he became CEO, turned around a company that was struggling, but it wasn't the first time in its history that it had struggled. It made the same mistake time and time again. It had basically managed to achieve good times and then become lazy, then just focused on making more profits rather than innovating, creating new models. And it lost to competitors. So it only started to innovate whenever it started to go into a downward spiral. When it had, in this particular case, when it had lost 60,000 workers because of its failure to innovate and keep up with the market, it decided it was time to innovate again. That cycle happened at least 5 times within the history of Ford Motor Company. So companies are quite slow to learn the lessons, it would seem. Ford isn't the only example, by the way. So Alan Mulally actually previously had been an executive at Boeing, another company, another example of a company that had kind of lost its way, stopped innovating, and he managed to turn Boeing around by focusing on managing costs, but massive innovation programs. And he then was hired to turn around Ford when Ford was looking like it may even struggle to survive. He successfully managed to turn around Ford and is, well, probably one of the most celebrated CEOs in America for having done so. His story is about managing to cut costs, managing to rationalize the business, but at the same time, massively investing in innovation. And it's that story that I want to focus on with another example. But before I go into the next example, this is a really scary set of statistics based on research from McKinsey. They did a global survey of 772 directors and found that only 22%, by their own admission, believed that the boards that they sat on had a good idea of how the company actually creates value. Imagine going into a crisis when you don't know how you create value for customers today. Never mind how you're going to create customer value in the future. You're in a very weak starting position. And I've done quite a lot of research since to ask whether these numbers are right. I've spoken to large institutional investors and venture capitalists. Every person that I've spoken to suggests that these numbers are actually very optimistic, and the real picture is far worse than this. My own experience is that most business leaders fail to be able to answer 3 fundamental strategic management questions. What value do we create? Who for? And how do we create it? If you don't know those 3 things, I would suggest that the strategy you have isn't really worth the paper it's written on. So the interesting thing is that whether we're talking about a self-inflicted crisis, the result of poor management, bad strategy, or whether we're talking about a crisis that's being inflicted on the business by a pandemic, by a global banking crisis, by a terrorist attack, or whatever it might be, the response of a business should be to preserve cash, rationalize the business in order to cut costs, enhance profitability. Those things are required so that investment in innovation can continue. And the innovation part of it is the critical part, because if you can't afford to innovate, you're probably never going to get through to the next phase. You're never going to get through the crisis. I want to use this example of 2 companies that took two contrasting responses to this exactly the same crisis. In this case, we know that it was the film industry being replaced by digital technology, digital disruption in this particular example. So this kind of illustrates just how much of a crisis and how rapid the change was. The number of photos taken in a year, and which obviously affects the demand for camera film, just completely plummeted in a very short space of time. Now, that particular situation was predictable and had been predicted. And interestingly, Kodak was the company that actually pioneered the first digital camera. So they definitely knew that this crisis was going to happen. But what Kodak did was actually stopped development of the digital camera because in normal accounting terms, it wasn't really a profitable part of the business. They'd invested for quite a long time, weren't seeing the returns, and decided to focus back on the film business because producing film was more profitable. But that was a very short-term decision, which backfired on them in a big way. Fujifilm, on the other hand, they knew that the crisis was going to happen, but they hadn't developed a digital camera. What they did was look at what the core capabilities of the organization were and work out how they could apply those core capabilities to expand into new market opportunities, recognizing that their existing business was going to disappear. So I hope I've left that slide up there long enough for you to be able to read it while I was talking, but I'll share the slides afterwards. I want to show you what the results of the two different approaches to a crisis were. So Kodak, as you can see, well, and we know Kodak failed. Fujifilm, on the other hand, within a 10-year period, managed to completely reinvent its business through innovation. So I would suggest if anybody wants to understand how to survive this particular crisis, they get a copy of this really quite short book by the former CEO of Fujifilm. It's a recipe book, if you like. It's a formula for how to survive a crisis. But it's the three elements I've mentioned already. It boils down to preserving what value you can from the existing business so that you've got the capital, the money to be able to invest in new innovation, in new opportunities. And he said that he would basically cut everything except innovation. And they ramped up or accelerated innovation in a massive way. The interesting thing is that this is exactly the same story as the formula that Alan Mulally applied to turn around Ford. So it's not a new formula. It's not rocket science either. It's actually a very easy to understand approach to how to get through a crisis. So I think that smart companies build resilience to a crisis by doing the following. They don't wait for a crisis to innovate. They don't wait for the market for their existing products to start to disappear. They're innovating continuously. They see it as a dynamic and iterative process. They're always taking bets on the future. They're creating new products. They don't rely on one product like Ford did. One product at a time until that product dies makes no sense at all. So the thing is to make sure that the innovation that you focus on isn't focused on just incremental innovation, how to improve the packaging to be able to charge a bit more of a premium, which isn't really adding customer value. In most cases, that strategy is more about how to extract a bit more value. The right approach is to work out how to really add significant amounts more customer value. And the best way of doing that is probably to look at how to do whatever the job is that the customer wants to get done, which is what they value, and to be able to provide the solution at a lower cost. So in a crisis, I would suggest that these are the primary three things: preserve cash, rationalize, and accelerate innovation. If you want to learn more, because obviously in 15 minutes I can say very little, to be honest, you could take a look at this site, which is several articles on how successful leaders remain undaunted and managing to survive crises. They can face up to wicked problems and avoid predictable surprises. This was the subject of a talk that I gave at Warwick Business School to their doctoral students in December last year, way before this crisis. And then it led to a conference we did 3 days before the lockdown during this crisis in London, which we ran at the Royal Society of Arts in London. It's the key point about this is, and Dr. Anil, I think, mentioned earlier, it's not the first time we've experienced a pandemic. There have been many pandemics before. Most crises are predictable, but the most predictable crises of all are the self-inflicted crises, and they're the biggest cause of most company crises. So I think we need to learn how to deal with uncertainty, how to remain undaunted. It is the key to surviving any crisis that we face right now and any future crisis. So I think I'll stop there if that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul.
I think Mr. Sushantu is there now. Can we have Sir's, can we have Sir addressing everyone?
Priyatna, sir?
Prayatna?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm just asking. Shushantu sir, can you address everybody if it's possible? He is facing lots of issue as far as network is concerned. I guess today it will not be possible for him to address us, unfortunately.
So can we move on to the next speaker?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So before that, I would just like to thank you, Mr. Paul, for sharing your insights into how companies can come out of the crisis. So I'm sure the leaders must focus on value creation, sustained performance, and intelligent fusion. So all of us will definitely work on it. Thank you so much. I would now like to talk about much awaited panelist, Mr. Piyush Gupta. So Mr. Piyush Gupta is writer and assistant director, partner at Drink Water Advertising and Design. He is famous for his work in movies like Chichore, Dangal, Bhootnath Returns, and Return of the Lord of Ghost. He has worked with some of the top brands that include Airtel, Adidas, Freecharge, McDonald's, Naturals, Sony Entertainment Television, Procter & Gamble, and World Health Organization. He is rated as India's best creative minds and has won many national and international awards, including Cannes One Show, EdFest Asia, and Filmfare, to name a few. So we welcome you, and we would like you to please share your knowledge with us.
Thank you firstly for having me here. Thank you, Mr. Paul. I think it was a fabulous presentation. I wish I could get my hands on it after our conference. It's massively unfair to come after, such great dignitaries and trying to share your insights, because no matter what I say, it's going to come out a little lesser. But I'll try to sum up my experiences. Uh, uh, Also, great opportunity. This is the first time I'm able to attend a conference in my shorts, so that's a new one for me. So, little bit about what I do and how am I looking at the COVID crisis and managing and trying to survive it. As you said, like I've been involved in many things. Like I'm a full-time Bollywood writer. I am also a full-time partner at an ad agency. I also give lectures. I also used to assist a while ago. I am pretty close to directing my first feature film, which obviously got stalled because of the pandemic, which hopefully would happen sometime later. And in all this crisis, all I've tried to figure out is a way to thrive and not just survive. As Mr. Paul had said, I think fundamentally, if we try to we aim for survival, we will really be find ourselves not covering the distance. The idea should be to thrive in this. Now, it's not really that easy to thrive, especially in situations where none of us are prepared. Forget about individuals and companies. Not even the governments are prepared. So there are these 5 to 6 pointers that I had developed for myself and for my company, which I believe would help us thrive in this situation, or at least allow us to manage ourselves quite well. One of the first learnings from this pandemic, for personally for me, has been, and this goes for everyone, right, from entrepreneurs to businessmen to filmmakers. Uh, I really firmly believe that short term is the new long term. Already, the pandemic has shown to us that long term goals are of no consequence at this point in time. What really matters is to plan for the immediate future. Even in this situation, the immediate future keeps changing every 3 months. So, really, not trying to look out for your life and try to aim for this is what I wanted to do, this is what I wanted to achieve, these are my target, these are my figures, or this is the business that I want to be in. As Mr. Barnett said, that it's all about innovation at a low cost. Uh, I would just add a lens of planning for a short-term duration and taking a small step at a time. I think has helped me actually innovate and turn my business into a completely different direction. To give you an example, Drink Water Design, the unit that I founded and I run, was heavily into retail. We saw growth revenue coming from our revenue coming 80% revenue coming from retail sector. So far, so much. In the past 3 years, we had designed and done 120 projects across India in different geographies in retail. And suddenly, with pandemic, when we spoke to our clients, the minute we mentioned the word retail, they would run away. They would be very scared. What do you do? What does a company that has built complete credibility on a sector that no more seems to be relevant? What does a company do? We took a short-term call of limiting ourselves into retail and trying to bring our revenue into through digital innovations and digital branding. We started designing websites for people. We started doing brand activation ideas for clients, and suddenly what seemed impossible to us at the beginning of the lockdown seemed like could be a good way forward. And I think that's what a short-term goal really does. So that was my first learning from this pandemic. The second learning was that knowledge doesn't matter anymore. Only what matters is the knowledge that is relevant. It doesn't matter that you may know how to how to write a great feature film, but movies are not releasing in India right now, not across the world, for at least another 1.5 years. So what does a person do? The only knowledge that matters is the one that's relevant. Here's the example of the second aspect of what I did in my other full-time career of writing content. I could sense that there is a huge boom that is happening in the OTT market, where the Amazon Primes and the Netflix of the world are really trying to capture the entertainment business. And so the first time I decided to actually start creating content for the online platform versus trying to write a movie for which would release in a theater. So that's another way of looking at finding relevance of the knowledge that you have. It may not be relevant exactly the way you had foreseen. It could, but it would still find relevance if you look deep. So that was a second big learning from the pandemic for us. The third one was the change has increased. Change has always been part of the ecosystem. I suppose uh, it was a great change when the computers came in. It was a great change when the internet came in. It is the pandemic is an equal amount of change, and all that it is showing is that from now on the change is going to be only faster. It's very important for us to not just pursue our just pursue degrees and careers, but also be open to changes, be open to studying trends, be completely wise enough to understand where the technology is building. And that goes to a lot of youngsters today who really plan their career out in the long term and really don't account for any change. Another small example of when I started off, I also am a lawyer, and I studied from government law college. I'm an LLB from there. And at that point in time, I still remember a lot of people said that why would you do a law degree and then also study advertising and get into filmmaking? But to me, right from the beginning, it was very important that I be, as far the knowledge is concerned, I be sailing in at least 2 boats, 3 boats, do more things than possible, or try to to have multiple careers, not just look after, oh, I've got a job now, I'm doing that job. What more can you do? Because these are the things that allow you the cushion to actually do to manage change. Dabble in more things that your talent could really do than just probably trying to achieve things in just a particular job, like innovating and trying to do new things. Another great learning is about budgeting, and how so many things that you feel are you would spend great deal on and now seem completely irrelevant, like having a fancy office to having gadgets and gizmos and cars. I think this pandemic has actually shown all of us, whether we are the business community or students or generally as individuals, that we probably were spending great amount of money in trying to do things that were just actually had only show of value. And probably it's time to rationalize and take a call of what really matters. And if and that's the way to budget your company, to budget your operations, to look after your affairs, and not really shy away from the fact that you don't have an office. A lot of startups, uh, including our company, we would always be worried about what a client would think if we had a smaller office. What would employees assume about us if our offices were not as swanky and as fancy? But in this pandemic, all we've realized is that a Zoom call is enough. Sometimes you don't need to fly for a meeting, and these cultural changes must be embraced. I think going forward, and that's another learning. And finally, with all the news channels talking about how difficult it is, how crazy this has been, personally, I feel that while we are talking about the new normal, not much has changed. I still dream about making my first movie, directing my first movie. I still dream about actually doing mega changes to brands and changing the branding landscape to doing some great creative work. So if my dreams haven't changed, and so then I don't think the world has changed by large. Most of us are still have the same ambition. It's just that we've been waiting on pause. So I think while we are all being pragmatic and trying to figure out what's the new normal, it's also important to remind ourselves that not much has changed. We are still the same human beings. All we must do is just do things in a smarter way, in a more effective way, and do things that we truly enjoy and find times for things that we never found time for. So yeah, that's my bit, and I actually, was hoping that there would be more Q&As that I could answer to. Don't have a great presentation like Mr. Barnett over here, but these were my experiences and learnings of the pandemic and to deal with COVID. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nidhi?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Can you hear me? There is some problem with the network. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, Riddhi, we can
Yes,
hear you.
okay, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Piyush. It was wonderful hearing you with the wonderful experiences that you shared with us, and I'm sure that motivated all of us to, perform better in this pandemic. Whether we need to be more relevant, we need to accept the changes and do the budgeting, and overall we need to rationalize, I think, to perform better in this pandemic. So thank you so much. So I would like to share that Mr. Sushanto, one of our panelists, has shared WhatsApp message with all of us. So Priyatna sir, can we show that?
Sorry, ma'am. Right now, I guess because of the network, he could not share it again. So he just informed me that once he will share it, he will inform me.
All right, all right. With the due permission, Fatak ma'am, few of our delegates want to ask questions to our panelist. So can I go ahead with that?
Yes, yes, please do that.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So there is one question from our faculty, Dr. Rajesh Changalwa, and this is a question to Shri Anish Agrawal. Is sir here? Mr. Anish Agrawal? Priyatna sir, is he there in the meeting?
No, I guess he has left.
He has left.
No, he has left.
Okay, okay. So there is another question. Okay, that question is, should a student think to go abroad for higher studies at this time? What are your valuable suggestions about this?
So I can take that question because I had a nephew who asked me the same question. I think the answer is quite simple. If you're going for a skill set that's going to be relevant in the next 4 years when you come out of college, or for the duration after which you come out of college, then you by all means can go. If you can secure a good scholarship, because a lot of these international courses are no more giving you the cultural feel anymore, because a lot of it is happening through distance learning. So yeah, like a friend of mine went to Spain to study, to pursue higher studies, but ended up do only half the duration of his course. So he didn't really get the Spanish experience of the city. So I guess the important factor here would be how much of a scholarship can you secure, and how relevant is the course that you're going for. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure the student must have got his answer. Thank you so much for your suggestion. So with this, I would like to call upon Dr. R.K. Sharma, Director, PIMR UG Campus, to please deliver the vote of thanks. Dr. R.K. Sharma.
Thank you, Nidhi. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Honorable galaxy of the speakers of inaugural session, teachers, my faculty colleagues, delegates across the globe, those who are participating in this e-conference, a very warm and graceful morning. I'm really thankful to each of the speakers, those who have given their inputs, especially to survive in this tough time. I express my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Anish Agrawal, Director Data and Analytics, RBS, for giving some of the very important key points to overcome the present crisis and how to survive in this time of unexpected crisis. A big thank you to Ms. Prema Mishra for sharing your valuable experience and letting us know that flowing like a river, whether there are obstacles, but if you continuously think and act on solving the problem, then the problems are no more. Rather, to focus more on solution than on the problems. We are grateful to Mr. Paul Burnett for highlighting not only to survive, but to thrive, and what are all the key points which has to be kept in mind while surviving and thriving. I also express our sincere thanks to Mr. Piyush Gupta that changes are inevitable. This unexpected, and there are expected changes. And nowadays, with this present crisis, we have come across with an unexpected change. So we have to be prepared for unexpected changes also, and to face those changes and to come up successfully in these type of crisis of changes. I am also thankful to Dr. Davis Jain for giving his highly motivating, address, where in a very brief way he has summed up about the journey of prestige that we had. It was a roller coaster journey. What we see today is we have done a lot, especially our honorable chairman Padma Shri N. Jain Sahab, along with his two sons, Dr. Davis Jain and Dipin Jain. They have faced a lot of problems, and in spite of that, they have been successful in establishing a very successful soya bean industry, along with a very established and well-known educational institutes in Central India. With this, I thank each one of you for participating in this e-conference. Last but not the least, I would like to thank to Dr. Tarun, Dr. Sharda, Dr. Prayatna, and the core team, those who have worked hard and have come up with this idea of organizing e-conference and using technology to organize this e-conference. And not only these three, but the entire faculty members, those uh, who have worked hard to come up with this e-conference. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Thank you so much.
Yes.
with due permission of yours, I would request all the panelists to switch on their video so that we can capture this moment. Yeah. Zubair sir, have you taken that? Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Done, sir.
Yeah.